Hey, welcome to The Explainer. You ever see someone who's just at the absolute top of their game? A world-class athlete, a brilliant surgeon, a virtuoso musician, and you just think to yourself, wow, they were just born to do that? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that whole idea.
So, what really separates the good from the truly great? Is it something you're born with, or is it something you have to build, brick by brick? This is the big question, right? It's the one that high performers and scientists have been wrestling with for ages. The whole debate really boils down to this: born with it versus built for it. Are experts just the lucky winners of some kind of genetic lottery, or are they forged in the fire of intense, focused practice over a long, long time? For a while, the answer seemed pretty obvious, but some incredible research came along and completely changed the game. All right, so here's our roadmap. We're going to start by taking on the whole myth of natural talent. Then, we'll dive into the real engine that drives expertise. From there, we'll see how skills become automatic, and we'll finish up with a practical toolkit you can use to build your own system for success. First up, let's get right into it and start dismantling one of the most popular ideas out there: the myth of the natural. For a very long time, going back centuries, the main theory was that your abilities were basically set by your genes. Your potential was predetermined. That was just the accepted wisdom, the textbook answer in psychology for generations. But then, a psychologist named K. Anders Ericsson came along. In 1993, he and his team published a paper that just turned everything on its head. They argued that what we all call talent is often just a massive amount of highly specific, intense practice, usually over a decade or more. So if it's not some kind of magical talent, what exactly is this intense practice? Well, that brings us to the core concept, the real engine of expertise. It's called deliberate practice. Now, it is so important to get this right. Deliberate practice is not just mindlessly repeating something 1,000 times. It's a very specific, almost scientific method. It's highly structured. It requires your absolute full concentration. You need immediate feedback to know what you're doing wrong. And this is the key: it has to push you just outside your comfort zone. You can think of it as this powerful, continuous loop. It starts with someone who's highly motivated. They tackle a very specific task that's challenging but not impossible. They give it their total focus, get instant feedback, and then they repeat, refining and improving over and over. That is the loop that builds mastery. And this isn't just a cool theory. The real-world results are absolutely staggering. A major meta-analysis looked at medical training, comparing deliberate practice with traditional clinical experience. The results were just, wow. In all 14 studies they looked at, every single one, the deliberate practice group was superior. Not once was traditional experience better.
And if you want a really jaw-dropping example, look at this. It's a study on performing a lumbar puncture, a really complex spinal procedure. After just 3 hours of deliberate practice, 95% of novice residents could do it correctly. 95%. Now, compare that to a group of experienced residents who were training old way. You know how many of them met that same standard? Only 6%. 6! That's the mind-blowing difference between structured practice and just passive experience. The evidence here is just crystal clear. How you practice matters so much more than just how long you've been doing something. But, let's be honest, this kind of practice is hard work. So that raises the next big question. How do you build a system that makes this kind of consistency automatic? And that is the perfect bridge into the second half of our explainer, the science of automaticity. This is all about how that conscious, hard effort turns into unconscious, effortless skill. You know, when we talk about forming a new habit, there's always this one magic number that everybody seems to know. I'm almost positive you've heard it repeated time and time again. 21 days. Yep. This whole idea got super popular from a book in the 1960s by a plastic surgeon, Dr. Maxwell Maltz. He simply observed that it took his patients, and I'm quoting here, a minimum of about 21 days to get used to a new face. Well, over time, people just dropped the minimum of about, and the 21-day myth was born. So, what does the real science say? Well, a researcher named Philip Bilali decided to find out for real. Her team tracked 96 people for 12 weeks as they all tried to build a new daily habit. And the answer? On average, it takes 66 days for a new behavior to become automatic. But here's the most important part of that study. The range was huge. It took anywhere from 18 days to 254 days. The big takeaway is that there is no single magic number. It all depends on the person, the habit, and the situation. So how does this whole process even work in our brains? Well, it all comes down to a simple little pattern called the habit loop. It's got three parts. First, there's a cue. That's the trigger. The cue leads to a routine. That's the behavior itself. And finally, there's a reward, which basically tells your brain, hey, that was good. Let's remember this loop for later. Every single habit you have runs on this simple framework. Okay, so we've covered the science. Now let's get practical. How can you actually use all of this information to build better habits in your own life? Well, the author James Clear boiled it all down into 4 simple laws. If you want to build a good habit, you just need to 1. Make it obvious, so the cue is right there in your face. 2. Make it attractive, so you actually want to do it. 3. Make it easy, so there's as little friction as possible. And 4. Make it satisfying, so your brain gets that reward and wants to do it again. What's really cool is that you see people discover these ideas on their own. For example, this Reddit user totally nailed a really powerful technique when they said they need to connect a new habit to an old one to make it stick. And it turns out this idea has a name. It's called habit stacking. And the idea is just brilliant. You use one of your current habits, something you already do automatically, as the trigger for a new habit. The formula couldn't be simpler. After I do my current habit, I will do my new habit. Like after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. It's an amazing way to make the cue for your new habit basically impossible to miss. And this all ties back to a much bigger, more powerful idea. These tools and systems, they're not just about changing what you do, they're about changing who you are. When you focus on the identity you want to build, like being a healthy person or a writer, every small habit you complete is like casting a vote for that new identity. You're not just doing something, you're becoming someone. So in the end, those small, seemingly insignificant choices you make every single day, they aren't insignificant at all. They are the building blocks of your future self. And that really just leaves us with one final powerful question to think about. With your daily habits right now, who are you becoming?